Hey y'all, this is going to be a little bit different of a video here. Normally we do reaction videos, gaming content, or like an IRL ghost hunt, right? But this time I'm doing something that's sort of like a tutorial, but it's not exactly. It's kind of like tips and tricks Tony and I learned along the way of like trying to do these 10 subscriber special. It took us over 11 hours to beat all the difficulties. It was bad, man. So most of the reason for these issues that took us so long to beat this was because of us not understanding a few things that we learned at the very end. But you know, it would have been helpful to know that stuff when we started. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to like let you guys know all these tips and tricks Tony and I learned along the way. Also, things that Tony and I kind of had like a learning curve on, where we just didn't understand it. We kept on dying to the same thing over and over again, and we just didn't know what was happening. But we eventually figured it out and fixed our issue. But like I said, 11 hours. And looking back at the footage, we could have done this in probably 4 hours if we knew all the stuff I knew now. So I'm hoping this video helps at least somebody. And this is just for anybody who has any interest in trying to beat Panicore Plus on the first level. So the first thing I want to get into today is sound. That's the whole first level basically for you. The monster can hear you, and if the monster hears you, you're kind of screwed. You're kind of cooked. Right? So I'm doing it on Panicore. I don't need both monsters to demonstrate this stuff, but any easier level, like easy and medium, they can't hear certain things that they can hear later on. Another thing about noise, guys, I just had to go through this too. I'm not going to show it on camera though. Right here in options, in audio, voice chat, there's this thing right here. Just ignore hearing me twice. There's this thing right here, auto calibrate. What you want to do is you want to press that and then be quiet. And then when it just shows that check mark, it's done. So what that does is if you have any background noise, like for some reason my PC is being really loud, I think it's updating something in the background. If you have any background noise, this thing will like mute it sort of. It'll make that the bass. Instead of 0 decibels, it'll be however many decibels were your baseline. Yeah, that's the first thing about noise I had to tell you guys. That auto calibrate thing is just amazing. All right, I forgot to do it, and I already had a couple takes here where I was not able to figure out what was going on, but here we go again. We're gonna try this out again and see if we can figure this out and actually show you guys how the game works. First thing I'm gonna show you guys that Tony and I did not understand for a very long time is that doors, they can hear doors. All right, so here, let me show you. Let me just showcase that they can hear you when you open a door. Now there are ways to get around it, but first things first, I'm going to show you how they can actually hear you. And now they're typically going to spawn in one of the upstairs bathrooms. I've seen them spawn more on the right side than the left, but this is one of the times where they spawned on the left. It gives you a little bit of a leeway period where you can run around and stuff and loot before they can come get you. Alright guys, I just showed you 3 ways you can get away from the monster after opening a door, even if it can hear you. Alright, first one was I opened this and I backed up. I backed up away from it. So it went at the door but didn't come after me. And this is because the monster goes after the last source of noise it could detect. Well, if it's the door and you're not near the door, it's not going to get you. Second one I showed you was opening the door and then walking in as far as you can without making noise. Now this one's the riskiest of them all, because you really have to wait for them to be far enough away for you to do it. Because if you don't get enough time, they'll just sprint up to the door and they'll sense you close enough and then they'll come get you. So no, that's like definitely not a good way. And here, this bathroom, it's so small. If they even step in here, you're basically dead. They're gonna detect you pretty quick. So what I did is I opened it and I walked in here, right? This door was already open, so it was safe. I walked in here. They went after that door, but I'm in here. So those are some pretty good ways to get away with opening doors. But again, these strategies are not perfect. They're very risky. I would recommend doing one thing over all of them. Wait until you can't hear the monster groaning anymore to open doors. That's my typical baseline of when it's safe to do anything, like make noise or anything like that. When you can't hear them groaning anymore is when you can start opening doors, or you can even sprint around and loot. That's risky though. I'll get into that next. But wait until you can't hear them anymore. Once that happens, you're pretty much free to do anything. You can talk, like I'm talking right now. He can't hear me because he's so far away. Something you gotta remember about this game is the monsters can hear you from a pretty far distance, but it isn't the whole map. There's a little bit of a safe area when it comes to making noise in this map. That is our first misconception, because also another thing. Look, I'm walking, and it's making noise. Tony and I saw that, so we were always like, oh, any noise is bad. So we squat walked everywhere, because look. It didn't make any noise. But basically anything in the white is safe, no matter what. If he's right next to you, like a foot away from you, white bar is safe. Anything above that, not so safe. Obviously red and the dark red are the least safe. So another thing you guys need to remember, if you want to play a little quicker, you can walk around. Okay, I told you guys about how you can sprint if he's across the map. Yes, you can. It's pretty risky though, because you never really know where they are. Like right now, I can't hear him very well. So I was safe there. That was a safe way to sprint. But what happened if he was right there, and I just couldn't hear him because there was a corner in between us? It's not a good strategy. I would recommend being patient and not sprinting everywhere. Now, I know it's going to be a little slower to do that, but trust me, it's so much safer. Alright, well, this run is over. So that actually showcases another interesting thing that I wanted to tell you guys about. So that is how to utilize bricks, right? You saw he was running straight at me. I threw a brick at him, but I didn't run away and panic. What I did is I just slowly backed up. So he was running at the noise, he got stunned, which makes him forget about any of the noise, and then he didn't hear another noise, so he didn't have anything to run after. But another thing about this game, this first level, the monsters love running at random things. Doesn't matter if there's a noise. They'll just start running. It's the most annoying thing ever. It adds a part of RNG to this game, right? So it's not 100% safe to do that. But if he's already running at you like that, you saw he was already sprinting at me. That's a really good way of getting away from it. I hate using bricks though, because they are so like inconsistent. Like that was a good example there, and it was somehow my first example there. But normally it's like 1 in 5 where that actually works. The other 4 times he just barrels right at you because he's like, oh yeah, no, I just all of a sudden want to sprint at you because of that random sprint feature. I think that's all of that covered. Now, let's see if we could find a glass here. Another thing Tony and I would have a lot of issue with is we'd throw a glass, but it wouldn't distract him. Well, glasses work perfectly. Well, as long as you know how the monster's aggression works. So if the monster already made the alert noise, it's like, it's after you. You can't really distract it unless you throw a brick at it. Alright? So Tony and I would throw the glass after that noise. So it would still come after us. The glass won't do anything. Also, let's say I throw a glass right at the ground. it's going to hit instantly and it's going to work right away. But if I throw it all the way over there, it has some travel time. So you got to account for that when you're in these situations. Like if a monster's right here, right next to me, I'm going to try to throw it like right here so that he'll go over there instead of throwing it way back there, because he'll get me before it lands. There's a lot of situations where that happened for me and Tony. Like Tony will throw a glass like this, arced up like that, and the monster will come get him because it hadn't hit the ground yet, and we'll be like, why didn't he go it through glass? Well, that's why. Let me try to show you guys how, if he's already alerted at you, he won't go after the glass. Hey, monster! See what I mean? He did not stop for that glass. I don't know how I got 2 for 2 here. So that brick thing, it's not a good example, guys. I promise you that brick thing does not normally work that often, alright? I'm just getting really lucky right now, but that's another good example of how to do it. Okay, so I've covered glasses, bricks, and doors. So now, another thing you could do when you are running away from the monster, and let's say you don't have a brick on you, which is like the worst situation to find yourself in. There is a way you could do it, but it's kind of hard to do it on Panicore and Panicore Plus because the monsters are so much faster than you. What you do is you try to gain a little bit of distance between you guys. And if you can do that, you stop running because they'll go to that last place that you were running, and then you try to walk away. It's basically impossible to do this on Panicore and Panicore Plus. Basically, if you catch yourself without a brick and he's chasing you, you're cooked. Alright? There's really nothing you could do there. This is a tip only for lower difficulties, right? So let's say you're sprinting away from him. Oh, actually, you know what? I'll showcase this real quick. Let me go ahead and showcase this real quick. So let me showcase it in here. Show you guys why it doesn't work. Well, never mind my statements there. I mean, it just worked. It somehow worked in Panicore mode. Alright, well, I guess I don't need to go do another showcase there. That's crazy. But you saw what I did there. I was sprinting, and then I stopped sprinting. Did you see how he just randomly stopped sprinting as well in the middle? That's because that's where I stopped sprinting too. He stopped where the last spot of noise was. That's really important to understand. Tony and I did not understand this for the longest time. They don't run at you constantly. They don't lock onto you like a heat-seeking missile. They lock onto the last loud noise they detected. Now, that's huge, guys. So you just saw me get away from him a whole bunch of times by using these simple tricks, alright? These will help you guys so much. But remember, I'm on Panicore, so there's 2 monsters. Running away from them is basically a death sentence in Panicore Plus. Because if you're running away from one and you get him stunned and he's gone, right? Where's the other one? He might be right behind you. Or he might be blocking your path running away from the other one. Basically, if you have to start running away from them in Panicore Plus, you're basically screwed unless they're both in one direction of you. Then you have a slight chance by using the thing I just showed you. We covered noise pretty well there. I'd say that was pretty thorough. Alright. There are 2 escapes in every map, and this one is no different. This one has a car you could fix. You have to get a tire iron, and fuel. Obviously the key too. And that escape is good, yes. And there's also an escape where you have to craft a ladder. Both of these escapes make noise. The car, it makes noise when you have to tire iron the wheel back on, and when you have to pour the fuel in. So you saw Tony and I trying to do those at the same time to minimize the amount of time we were making noise. But let me just break it to you here. The car is definitely not the best way to go. The oil takes way too long. Okay, you have to do this for both escapes. You have to smash this thing, which makes a noise, and it drops a key. Now normally the monster will run at it, but this is easy mode, okay? Now another thing you guys will notice, look at my hotbar. I don't have a flashlight. And it's not because I just don't like using flashlights, it's because it's an extra inventory slot that's taken up. Now they're really nice to have, and if you can, you should keep it. But I always like to think of it as like, if you need it, you can get rid of it. We're at the oil, guys. So now let's see how long this takes. You guys see what I mean when I say that takes forever? Yeah, back to the whole flashlight thing, right? I tend to prefer even holding a brick over a flashlight. Flashlight will help you see more, but the brick will help you survive, which I find to be a lot more useful. Now, the only reason I'm able to go without a flashlight is because I've kind of memorized this map. And that's a very useful tool, but I would not recommend dropping your flashlight if you don't know the map like the back of your hand like I do. Let me find the tire so I can show you guys the tire iron too. And I'll also show you the sawing wood to show you how much quicker it is. Also, another thing about this, I tend to not like to carry a med kit with me, even if you're in duos, because that's another inventory spot, right? Now, if your teammate dies, it's always nice to have a med kit on hand, but again, you need your inventory spots. They're very valuable. And it's just the more stuff you can carry, the less trips you have to make, which means less risk you have to take by going and traveling around next to the monster. Remember, I mean, everyone can have their own preferences. My preference is I like to just carry everything for my own survival first, and if my teammate dies, then I'll go get a med kit. Tony was different. Tony kept the med kit on his person at all times, which, you know, I appreciated, but it definitely would have benefited him more if he just kept himself in mind first. Alright, so you guys saw the oil and how long it took. I'll probably put it on the screen. Let's see how much one wood takes. And remember, you have to do 3 woods. That is 1 wood. See how quick that was? Now let me show you guys the tire iron. Now this thing isn't about time, it's a skill check. So obviously if you can do the tire iron quick and you're really skilled at it, that's not really a worry. And yeah, so it's definitely not the worry when it comes to fixing the car. The oil takes way longer, no matter what. So here, I'll show you. I'm just swag like that, where I do it perfectly. But yeah, you see how much noise that makes versus 1 wood taking that much time. I'll like time it myself and put like I'll put it on screen, a comparison. All right. So now I'm not going to count these both together because you can do them both at the same time if you have a teammate. But if you're solo, you can't do that. So I would always recommend doing the ladder first. And you'll see in the recording, the only one we did the ladder on was Panicore Plus. Because we didn't know this. We thought, oh, the car is easier, blah, 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 right? And yeah, it's definitely safer in here. I've never seen the monster roam in here on his own. But the amount of noise, it's not a good idea. But yeah, obviously, everyone has their own playstyle. All these things are just tips and tricks. You don't have to play by these rules. I mean, they're not rules. You don't have to use these. I'm just trying to show people how I figured some of these things out with Tony. Alright, y'all. I know I said that would be the last tip, but while I was watching it back, I thought of another thing, and that is where to find the keys and also where to find certain other pieces of loot, because it's not really obvious at the beginning, right? So I thought this might also help you guys out a little bit more. It's not like as important as other tips, but they're still important. So I found a map here. I found it online, and this will help me show you guys where the key locations can be. So the key is like the most important thing of the whole thing, right? You need it for both escapes. You need it for the garage, which you need to use it on this door right here, and then upstairs is basically the same thing as the downstairs, but I only have the downstairs here to consolidate. Right here and right here, but upstairs you need keys to unlock those doors too. This just shows how very important this item is. It's the most important thing you need, right? So I wanted to cover a couple spots where it could be, and Tony and I got confused on a couple of them, right? So like you obviously, well, it's not really obvious, but you probably know that you can find them in basically any room like this, where you can find loot, right? Kind of like this, these rooms. But you can't find it in the stairs, of course, and you can't find them in the bathrooms. But what we thought was really weird, you can find it right here in the gym, and you can find it right here as spawn. We ran past this so many times because we didn't know it could spawn there. We thought it had to spawn in one of those rooms. And another spot we thought we didn't know until like Panicore Plus, like the very last couple runs. You can find them in these rooms. I didn't know that. You can find them in the rooms that are in between the bathroom and the hallways. So that is huge. I mean, I wonder how many runs we were like, oh, we just need the key, but they were just right here the whole time, right? And it's the same for both upstairs and downstairs. You can find the key in the intermediate rooms, but you can't find them in the bathrooms. You can't find them in the stairwells. You can find them in all the loot rooms, but it's not here upstairs. You can't find it here upstairs. And upstairs, this is like a boardwalk right here, so you can look down into the gym from upstairs. So it's not in this room either, because we'll obviously need a key to get in there. That wouldn't make sense. Another huge plague of our runs that we just couldn't figure out where they were. So another thing Tony and I were kind of confused upon sometimes, but it's not like game breaking, it's not game changing, it's just little tips here. It's where you can find certain pieces of loot. So like some loot you can only find in the cabinets, which is basically every piece of loot except for bricks, medkits, tires, and saws, and glow sticks. But glow sticks are basically just the most useless thing ever. So saws are the weirdest one of all. Well, saws and medkits actually. You can find both saws and medkits in the cabinets and just laying around in the ground, which is very weird. I mean, I've only found the saw on the ground a couple times, but it kind of blends in. I wonder how many times I just ran right past it, but that's besides the point, alright? The tire, it cannot be anywhere inside of a cabinet. And I've only found it in a couple rooms. It's typically the ones that are like the big long rooms. That's typically where I find them, but you can find them in the library. I'll just tell you guys these things. It's not like game changing. You don't need to know this stuff. I just thought more content, right? This last thing though, I do need the map again. Let me clear it off real quick. So I'm gonna go over a couple of like the deadliest rooms in my opinion. These rooms, there's very little room to work with and they'll just snipe you. So upstairs in this room right here, it's like a tiny little office room with a little sculpture in the corner. That's like the key sign right there. That room is the worst. The monster's normal pathing is to go behind the desk and then back around. There's nowhere safe in that room. If the monster comes in that room with you, you're cooked unless you have a brick. But even if you have a brick, I already went over that. And the other ones are just the stairs. Oh my gosh. Amount of times I've died in the stairs because they're just randomly running. Countless, man. You gotta wait. You gotta be patient. Even then, it's not enough. And another honorable mention, it's not like the most deadly, but I've died in here a lot because of being a little bit impatient, is this office right here, downstairs office. Remember, this one's upstairs, this one's downstairs. This office right here gets me killed a lot because it's very small and they're pathing. Like there's a desk right here. Let me get rid of that X. There's a desk right here. And I like to go behind this desk and there's stuff on the wall over here and over here, right? I like to go on this desk, but that's their normal pathing. They go around the desk and back out. It's not as bad because I don't really see them go in this room very often. They don't really go in the downstairs room as much as the upstairs one. I noticed that. Yeah, so this is a pretty deadly room. And also the crafting room. I don't know why, but they love this room. They'll go in here so much. Like if you're over here trying to go in here, they'll just randomly sprint past you and go in there. Well, if they're sprinting past you, they're gonna kill you. Alright guys, seriously though, that was the last example. I hope this information helps somebody. I know it was kind of like a long rant video, but I'm kind of experimenting with different things. I want to see if any other style works, because I don't want to be confined to just like 3 video types. I want to kind of branch out a little bit. If you guys like this video, make sure you let me know in the comments. Make sure you like the video and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. Just please let me know. I'm always open to feedback, all right? And if there's any changes you want me to do or add or anything like that, just let me know, all right? I read the comments, I respond. Well, Tony and I both do that, but... And if you guys have any video game suggestions or videos you want us to react to, as always, let us know in the comments. It's like our typical thing. We'll be super happy to do it. We'll put aside our normal schedule and do those because we want to do community feedback so much. Yeah guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.